Crimson Dragon's one of 4 big digital releases from Microsoft for the launch of Xbox One. Really kind of a spiritual sequel, if not a direct sequel, to Panzer Dragoon on Xbox, and previously on Dreamcast, was it?
Sega Saturn.
Sega Saturn, even.
Going back.
So a bit of a retro classic. It's always been an on-rail shooter, but that's a genre that's sort of fallen out of favour, and that kind of it's reflected in the game now. It doesn't quite feel as modern or as updated as it maybe could do.
Yeah, totally. I think the problem with on-rails shooters these days is we've got really fond memories of them, but they're just not really that engaging anymore. It's almost like a little developer trick that seems to have worn away over time, and I think that's really sort of evident with playing Crimson Dragon, because a lot of the time it does just feel like a bit of a drag instead of this game where you're like, oh my god, I'm on top of these huge dragons and everything's exploding. It's just like, I want a dragon and it's alright.
I think there have been examples, things like Res HD release on XBLA on the last generation was a big one, but then that had that element of the music and the kind of almost like a rhythm action element. It had this extra mechanic that just kind of drew you in at another level, and of course that was also a remake of a game from a generation before that. I think the other thing that's slightly winding people up on this game is the invitation towards microtransactions. There's a sense that you either have to really grind your way through this game to move through and get new dragons, or you have to pay for them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, isn't it? They've sort of positioned it with the microtransactions like a free-to-play game, except it's not free-to-play, it's, £10 plus, and it's just like, it's a lot of money to drop on a digital title, and you don't really expect, as subtle, as they are in the game, you don't really expect to sort of be stuck on a boss or be going through the single player and just be sort of told, right, well, you could just drop £5 here and you'll power yourself up, and the game shouldn't be. It feels like maybe the reason it's so much of a grind is because it's got those microtransactions, and that may or may not be the case, but that's certainly how it feels.
It's a tricky argument to get into, because it's probably not that different to certain games of the last generation that didn't put this sort of language in of constantly kind of asking you, oh, do you want to pay for this? Do you want to pay for this? But those things were still there. It's certainly, if you remember back to certain games that would allow you to unlock everything in the game, which you could do just by playing it, but it would let you unlock it right away for £20 or something like that. And so that's now kind of more integrated into the menus and into the the loading screens or whatever it might be of some of these games, as opposed to just on the store.
I think with Crimson Dragon, it's at the very least it handles fine. Like, luckily, Kinect has sort of been put to the sidelines. It started off as a Kinect-only game, and God knows what that would have turned out like. So, there are some positives to be found in it. And if you've got a bit of spare cash, you've burned through the launch titles already, and you want something else to play, it'd be probably worth a bit of your time. It's just,
because of that grinding thing, it is a slightly slower paced game, but it will last you a while to play through and to get the most out of it. So if you've got the patience for it, and certainly if you like Panzer Dragoon, there's still probably something here that you're going to really enjoy.
Yeah, totally. And we are scoring it 6 out of 10.